Today on Mr. Media, I'll talk to Bruce W. Perry, author of the new book, Fitness for Geeks, Real Science, Great Nutrition, and Good Health. Stick around, except you nerds in the audience. This is a Geeks-only interview. We don't want your kind around here muddying up the waters. Okay. Mr. Media is recorded live before a studio audience of gypsies, techies, tramps, and geeks who have next to nothing in common but a growing interest in each other's well-being in the new media capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida. Geeks are generally unhealthy people. You know, just like you and me. Okay, like you anyway. The wife and I literally joined the local Y yesterday to get back to the gym and take a stand against the rapid onset of middle age. But enough about me. Let's get back to the geeks and freaks in the audience. Your color is poor, so is your circulation. You're fat and slovenly, too. Seriously, wipe that drool off your chin. It's grossing me out. You know who I'm talking to. Now, never getting up from your computer terminals and working for hours on end in dimly lit rooms, never experiencing sunlight, will do that to a fella. And a girl. Another problem. You're too smart for your own good. You think you know everything about everything because you've got the knowledge of the internet forever at your fingertips. But while you could run C++++++++ circles around the rest of us mere mortals, you're doing a crappy job of maintaining your health. You're only going to be 23 and know everything for so long. Then you're going to turn into one of us, you know, your parents. Now, it's not too late to do something about the situation, and software engineer Bruce W. Perry has written the perfect life hack for you. Fitness for Geeks, Real Science, Great Nutrition, and Good Health. It's even produced by the ultimate geek publisher, O'Reilly. Now, Perry has figured out a way to get you focused on getting healthy. He uses apps, widgets, and terms only a geek will understand. So, before this gets any more over my head, Bruce W. Perry, welcome to Mr. Media.
Hey, it's great to be here, Bob.
Thanks for joining us. I assume we will all leave this much better off for it, healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Well, after that introduction, I hope someone's still around.
You think I scared them off? You think the truth hurts?
Yeah, I don't think people like to be told about their facial color and things like bad eating habits, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, now wait a minute. This is coming from the guy who's got a whole chapter devoted to getting out in the sunlight and explaining what sunlight is. Right? I mean, I'm not making this up.
I just came from the sunlight, and I live in New England, so you got to get it while it's there.
No, I believe
We're not like you guys down in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, we do have plenty of sunlight. That is true. So, I mean, at the base of this is, do geeks really need their own health manifesto?
Yes, they do, because they're kind of the new bohemians. You know, as you were describing, there's a little too much eschewing of sleep, eating packaged food, forgetting to move. And also, this is pro-techie. You know, I kind of speak to geeks in this book. I use a lot of even software engineering terms to describe some of the health concepts. So I think they will understand the language and have a lot of fun with it, because the book does not shy away from the science. And we know that geeks like to dig deep into the technical topics
And
that they get interested in it.
maybe you could tell us a little bit about your own background. You were a software engineer, writer?
Well, I've got a master's in software engineering, and I've done a lot of web programming, worked for a couple of companies and freelanced, and I've always been into sports and the outdoors, so I've got the blend of the fitness and the geeks. I started off with team sports. I did a lot of road racing and triathlons, and now I've moved on to a lot of the stuff the book describes, like resistance training and lots of hiking, biking, mountaineering. And I've always liked to do the stat geek stuff. I always kept a diary of what I was doing and constantly measured my heart rate with the latest gadget.
Hmm.
So I always wanted to write a book like this,
But
which is part research, part science, part 40 years of experience, experimenting with all the different uh, athletic endeavors.
you've really become kind of the anti-geek, though, haven't you, by your own description there?
No, I think you're selling geeks a little short. There's a lot of geeks like to go outside and use the latest software and stuff like that.
You're
I'm evidence that you can do both.
you're destroying the stereotype here. Is this really what you want to do with a book called Fitness for Geeks? I mean, come on, let's go with let's let the stereotype ride a while. Hey, really, I mean,
No, no, obviously, there's some people who want to move in another direction with their fitness and their health and their diet, and I give them a ton of information to work with. It's knowledge is empowering. I don't lecture people. It's not as scary, do A, B, and C or you'll die. It's more like, here's tons of information. I know you're not afraid of digging deep, into technical topics, so take it and run.
now I have to ask you this. Do you have a problem with the McDonald's, Monster Energy, Nutrisystems, Jenny Craig diet, or are you okay with that?
I'm not really into fad diets. I think food in the United States is more about money than anything else. There's uh, everybody's different. Whatever works is great. I mean, if people get healthy using like a brand regimen,
Hmm.
that's great. My book is more, I'd say, down to earth. Get outside, move more, eat real food. I'm not going to give you any fancy brand names, try to sell you something. It's more like advice you would get from your grandmother if your grandmother was a software engineer.
I like that. All right, all right. Well,
She doesn't recognize any of the ingredients in modern foods now.
mm,
So you know, just eat food that your grandmother could describe to you, like a pastured egg.
Pastor Ben. All right, I'm gonna write that down. Excuse me a minute. Um, tell me, or tell all of us about this. Well, underclass of people, these geeks. Who are they, and who is it you're targeting with the book? Because most of us have never seen them. I mean, they never come out in sunlight. So, I mean, who are we talking about here?
Well, you're talking about people who like to dig deep into any topic that they're interested in. They do a lot of measuring and analyzing and gathering data about themselves. It's almost all about the information in the data
Hmm.
and writing code all night, getting inspired, almost like an artist. But there's too much indoors, too much immobilization in front of a screen, kind of like we are right now,
What are you saying?
and getting carried away with the information. But they're hacking themselves. And an example would be you try out a new food, then you start measuring your blood pressure, all kinds of biofeedback, and just, you know, almost going overboard, but taking a tremendous interest in your own biofeedback and maybe using code and software around that.
Would you say that the book is aimed at guys like Sheldon on The Big Bang Theory? Is this the target audience?
Yeah, and anybody, I mean, doesn't have to be a software person, but I think that's what I was thinking about when I was writing the book because I've been that.
Hmm.
So I think those are the people I was writing for, but certainly anybody who's into science or biology and wants to tune up their knowledge about nutrition,
Yeah.
the book would be appropriate for them.
And Bruce, one of the things that struck me is, and to be serious for a moment, just for a moment though, um, it seems to me that a lot of people, young people, they get out of college and maybe they get into software engineering or things like that, very science oriented, and they tend to throw themselves into their career very hard and very heavily for the first couple of years, and then they kind of reach a point maybe 4 or 5 years later where they realize they haven't taken very good care of themselves. They've been so focused on career, they've let a lot of things in life go, and that maybe this is a kind of book that is aimed at helping them come out of their funk and realize, hey, you can take care of yourself and you can still be a good geek along the way.
Your last question kind of broke up a little bit. Can you say that again?
Oh, sure. Uh,
Just summarize it.
okay. Can you hear me okay now, though?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. All right. So what I'm thinking is,
You're talking about somebody who has to work an 80-hour week and they're, maybe writing software for a Wall Street firm or something.
well,
How can they stay healthy?
well, what I'm saying is that I'm thinking that there's a kind of this class of young people who they come out of college, they're very talented, and they really throw themselves into their work, and but after a couple of years they realize they need to take care of something more than just their brain. The body will wither if they don't pay attention to it, and it seems like this book is written specifically to appeal to those people, whatever their nature of
Right.
their work is.
Yeah, there's a lot of common sense things you can do to adapt to that kind of lifestyle. And a lot of the book goes into that, having knowledge about what you're eating, even instituting some fasting, which actually gives you more energy. Always take the stairs, never take the elevator, avoid all the management types who are waiting for you on the elevator. Hike and bike to work. You live in New York City, you live uptown, but you have to work at Wall Street. Walk or take your bike, down Madison Avenue or something instead of taking the bus. Or if you have to take the bus, stand up on it.
Mm.
Use the company gym. There's so many different things you can do, and it's not only good for your body, but it's probably better for your performance at work, because you're feeling better about everything.
What do you think about the treadmill desk?
I think that's kind of interesting, and that was interesting that you'd say that because one of the things I learned when I was researching this book is that instead of getting really obsessed about your, daily 45-minute workout, it's actually more important to have like a steady background noise of movement during the day. And there's a tool called the Fitbit that seems to it's a sports tracker. It's like a pedometer on steroids. And it will give you for a whole day how many steps you took and how many feet you climbed. And it gives you a metabolic equivalent of task, which is a simple index that shows how much you moved for a day. For instance, someone who's sitting on a couch all day has a met of something like 1, whereas a construction worker has a met of around 2 to 3. So when you mention the treadmill in front of the computer, some of the people who research the issue of the difference between just sitting and getting up constantly during the day were so appalled by what they found. I think they found that it had lethal effects on the metabolism. That some of these people that you see on newscasts who are on the treadmills in front of the computer are actually the scientists who studied it. And the data that they found was so alarming that they're doing these kind of freaky things, like walking in front of their computer. Whereas I think for everybody, the pedometers are interesting in the way they can measure that. And you turn around, and if you're a geek, you're going to look at the charts that it produces on the website afterwards. You're going to see, wow, I have to take more steps tomorrow. Or, it'll show you a chart exactly, with oscillations during the 8-hour workday that shows when you were sedentary and when you were moving enough, et cetera, et cetera.
So I'm sorry, I want to go back to this. So are you against the treadmill desk? I wasn't really clear from your answer. The idea of the treadmill in front of the workstation.
No. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I don't think it's necessary because I get up and down and I take a lot of short walks during the day. And I usually have some kind of resistance training workout every other day. Um,
But but for the
but
people that you're aiming the
it's
book at,
it's definitely better than sitting at a desk. I mean, if you want to turn on a slow treadmill, all the power to you.
I was just curious. I had a guest on a couple weeks ago, AJ Jacobs. He's a writer for Esquire who's got a book out called Drop Dead Healthy, and he spent like 2 years trying every fad and trend and health and fitness and diet. And one of the first things that he started doing was someone had told him about the idea of this treadmill desk, and he started with a kind of a simple version of it, just putting a treadmill and then putting a stack of boxes and putting his computer on it. And eventually he slowed it down a bit, but over the course of the 2 years, I think that he logged like 1,000 or 1,100 miles on the treadmill, and he just decided that he was just going to stick with it even after the experiment and the book was over, because he was amazed that while he was getting all of his work done, how much more energetic he felt because he kept moving while he was doing it. And I have to be honest, I've been thinking about that here in the home office myself, that I spend too much time sitting at the desk, and so I was kind of extrapolating to the people that for Fitness for Geeks is probably aimed at, and I mean not everybody can
Yeah.
set up a treadmill, but
Yeah, I just don't think that that's completely necessary.
okay.
And more isn't necessarily better.
Hmm.
I mean, that I think that's the only downside of a lot of these sports tracking apps that are near and dear to a lot of our geek hearts, because they produce so much data and everything. But they tend to reinforce more is better, like how many times you run around the equator and things like that. So don't overtrain. I mean, there's sort of a dose-response relationship with exercise. There's a perfect dose, good movement throughout the day, not excessive, not excessively sedentary, obviously. So more isn't necessarily better in terms of, putting in the mega miles.
Well, tell us about some of the I don't know. Do you have three top apps that you do like for this book?
Yeah, there's so many of them, and I don't like to play favorites, but the ones that I use were Endomondo is really good. That's an app that out of a company in Copenhagen that goes on your smartphone, and it has really good, it talks to your GPS software, and you can do interval training with it. You can do any kind of sport, including team sports, and it records everything, all the parameters, and it has a really kind of splashy website where you can look at the maps of where you went.
Okay.
And a tremendous tool for people who like to share. They're constantly scrolling what people are doing throughout the world. And there's an app for skiing I like called Alpine Replay. And I like the Fitbit tracker also. And there's Runkeeper, Nike Plus, Garmin Connect, and many others.
And I thought it was interesting that you went with the apps. You go with them very early in the book because it's certainly something that, I mean, everyone's talking about apps. Everyone's looking for apps to try and use, and
Yeah,
it seemed like a perfect way to get the attention of your audience in this book.
it's amazing how many people are using them. Millions. I think Endomondo has 7 million plus
Mm.
people. So I think that's the wave of the future. And one thing, you were talking about people don't know who geeks are. Uh, I tend to put so many people are going into software industries. It's one of the booming industries,
Hmm.
amidst a recession. And this includes literally billions of people throughout the world who are going on the internet, having sort of a web lifestyle for the first time.
Hmm.
People in India, Africa, China, Indonesia. That's what, maybe internet users, maybe well over 1 billion people. They're going to be turning to these apps because I don't think they want to make the same mistakes as the first generation of geeks who might have sacrificed some of their health. when back in the early 90s, we started to get really excited about uh, being on the internet all the time. So, some of these people might have come from traditional society or cultures where they were outside a lot, moved around a lot. So I think that's one of the places where this app popularity is going to go. People throughout the world who are somewhat new to the internet.
Well, as a software guy yourself, have you written an app for the book?
No, I haven't. I haven't had the time.
No, missed opportunity there. I'm just smelling opportunity all of a sudden. Uh,
It the coding and the design is more complicated than what you'd think. I mean, doing an app for Android or iPhone is a fairly complex API.
hmm.
So I've been talking to you guys a lot, being interviewed all over the place.
The fourth estate.
Ever, ever, ever since I finished writing the book, so I haven't had time to write a lot of code.
All right. Well, when we get done here today, I want you to sit down and get that app in gear. Did I say get that app in gear? That didn't sound quite right, did it? um, what? Let me ask you this: what technology, if any, is is can be dangerous for geeks? I mean, not because they're going to cut their finger on it, but because it becomes so habit forming and obsessive that maybe it keeps them from fitness.
You mean among the sports-related
Yeah.
apps? Maybe, maybe the only hazard is overtraining.
Hmm.
As before, I said they tend to have a more is better approach, but that's not the problem with most people. For most people, it's not being sedentary. Um, Sometimes we overtest. I mean, there's a lot of problem with medical testing now. As all this stuff has come out about mammograms and prostate testing, and oh, gee, we were wrong. All those things we told you before. And I think we're just an incredibly over-tested population. And another aspect of these apps is health hacking. So a lot of people are hacking their own health. They're testing their own glucose, constantly testing their blood pressure, other aspects. A lot of pretty cool tools are coming out for these things. And I think, people can get overly preoccupied
Hmm.
with, it almost tends to enforce hypochondria, if that could be considered dangerous.
Well, it could. It could. And did you did a lot of research for the book? There's a lot of interviews with experts in the book. Did you learn anything about health and fitness that changed your own
Yeah,
ideas going into this?
yeah. When I interviewed an expert on vitamin C. I kind of went back to vitamins and minerals after that because she was saying that 3 out of 10 Americans are flirting with scurvy or already have scurvy, which is something I thought only British sailors got or northern explorers. And so that was one thing. Um,
That was a good interview. I read. I thought that was
yeah,
very interesting. Yeah.
yeah. Another scientist at MIT was telling me about mTOR, which is sort of the popular geeky acronym among weightlifters because it's the growth pathway in the body,
Hmm.
and it's just highly significant and it's all over the place. So I started thinking about diet and things that initiate mTOR a lot more with my own diet, and I want to kind of follow that topic. And
Was there a? Is there?
every one of the interviews was interesting. When I interviewed the football players, um, they totally talked me out of doing squats with bars on my back. That's for sure. Yeah.
Is there a like a beginner's, intermediate, and advanced path in the book, or is it just one path? Because that was the thing I kept thinking. I don't know. I'm asking that question almost rhetorically because I don't think that there
Ch-
is, but maybe I
chap,
missed it.
chaps, Chapters 7 and 8 are beginning to intermediate guides to sprinting protocols,
Hmm.
and especially resistance training. I mean, essentially, chapter 8 begins with a person, their friend has walked into their cubicle and they said, dude, you're out of shape. And they walk away. And the guy gets up and there's that gym that everybody's been going to, and he has a gift certificate for it. So he walks into the gym, and now what do I do? So, that's the whole approach of chapter 8. And it actually goes into more depth than beginners. But if you're a beginner, it's a very friendly guide. I mean, there's just pictures of the exercises you can do, and descriptions of sessions and reps, and people might know what a repetition, they might not know what a repetition max is, and it's just a very friendly guide.
The one thing that I question, and I believe me, I say up front, I'm not a health and fitness expert by any means. I don't even play one here on TV. Um, but I was a little surprised by the you encouraging your readers to do fasting. Actually, before you've encouraged them to get out in the sun, and before you've even encouraged them to do exercise, it seemed a little early in the program to do that. What's the thinking behind that?
Well, I think fasting has been a much maligned area of health. Intermittent fasts are actually very healthy. They're anti-inflammatory. It's a more efficient way to do a resistance exercise workout. Um, they help, lower your fasting glucose and insulin, which is a massive problem. But it also just feels good. I mean, it's not something that should be scary. And an intermittent fast or an IF, it only really lasts the night, and then, skip breakfast a couple of hours. We're not talking about marathon, 72-hour fasts. I really advocate fasting for a lot of people instead of, grabbing that Starbucks caffeine-filled milkshake and the muffin. You're going to feel a lot better during the morning with an occasional fast. You don't have to do it every day.
Well, what I wonder though is for the intermittent fasting, isn't that? I mean, wouldn't that be healthier for people who are eating healthy by the time they start fasting? Because if they're fasting 16, 17, 18 hours, and then they go through that 5 hour period I think you talk about of eating a lot. But if they're eating McDonald's or
What we're talking about is specific regimens that I wanted to survey everything that's out there.
Mhm.
And there are regimens that are kind of advanced, like 19-5 and things like that. That means only eating for 5 hours a day. Some of these are appropriate for people who are, have metabolic problems, or on completely the other side of this spectrum, people who are very experienced with fasting and they're totally geeky about it. And, they might be some sort of, CrossFitter who's heavily into fasting. But that's not for everybody. Like my intermittent fasts are occasional, and they might last 14 to 16 hours. And, obviously, if you do have a health problem or something, you should consult a doctor first. But I think, it's a very curative process. And one of the interesting things I found doing the research about fasting is that it's considered good stress. The cells adapt to the fasting and have greater stress resistance to other insults. In one particular instance, there were some people in Japan who had been contaminated by PCBs, and they were getting all these horrible symptoms, and nothing was working. And then they fasted them, and all the symptoms went away. With the theory being that the cells stopped taking in toxins from the bloodstream and sort of, took a defensive stance. So, I don't think people should be scared of fasting.
okay.
Quite the opposite. I think it's just, something that has been ignored too much by maybe, Western culture.
All right. Now you also have a chapter in here on food hacks. Now just to put it in context, because we might actually there might be a nerd or somebody who's slipped into the audience watching the show might not know what a food hack is. Do you want to explain that a little bit and then describe a couple of examples of food hacks?
Yeah, I think you were talking about choosing food, that chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, I was talking about you do wake up in the morning. Where am I going to get my food? I mean, instead of going for the McDonald's and BK and Dunkin' Donuts in every corner, where are you going to go get your food? You're going to get it. I advocate going to local farms. So many towns have great farms with local organic food to choose from, and there are CSAs, community supported agriculture, which is kind of like making an investment in small farms, and you can just take that food to work, and I think that was what you're talking about, but food tax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, okay. Finally, before we wrap it up, are you at all worried that the potential audience for this book that they'll just figure out because they are very good at software and hacking and stuff that they'll just figure out a way to download it for free? Is that at all a concern with something like this?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yes, it is.
I think there's a big movement to program yourself. So some guy down the line is going to discover how to write code and then, download it to their own organism, and, they'll be able to program themselves. And, our conventional advice will no longer be relevant.
Mm. All right. Well, folks, listen.
There's a lot of things
Oh,
happening in technology.
yeah. Well, you can find Bruce W. Perry's new book, Fitness for Geeks, Real Science, Great Nutrition, and Good Health, in great bookstores everywhere, or you can order it right now at a great price at MrMedia.com. Bruce, do you have a website? Are you on Twitter or Facebook, any of those things where people can find you?
Yeah, fitnessfg.com.
FitnessFG.com. All right.
Yeah, and there's a lot of information there that augments the information in the book. And, I'd love for people to visit and, leave a comment. Tell me what they're getting out of the book and what kinds of workouts they're doing, things like that. What kind of apps they like the best.
I'm doing the pen workout. I lift my pen. It is very no, sorry. Uh,
Oh,
seriously. Now, Bruce, it was really.
that's probably a titanium pen.
Oh yeah, it
So
weighs a ton. I tried not to show how much I'm struggling to push it up. Um,
you just did a bicep curl with 80 pounds.
there you go.
Good for you.
Yes, things in the rearview mirror may be larger than they seem. Um, Bruce, very interesting book. I appreciate that it's aimed at an audience that probably really needs to read it and heed it. And thank you very much for joining us in Mr. Media today.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, Bob.
Thank you.
Take
You
care.
too. For more original interviews, surf over to our main website, mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com. If you've enjoyed today's show, subscribe for free to Mr. Media via email, RSS, or iTunes, and you'll never miss a show. Another good idea? Download our new free Mr. Media mobile app in the Android market. You can also listen with a piece of string and a tin can in many parts of the internet. Show your support of Mr. Media by supporting our sponsors, including Audible. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/radio. Again, that's audibletrial.com/radio for your free audiobook. We're also supported by thepartyauthority.us. Call DJ Ira for all your party entertainment needs nationwide at 1-800-DIAL-DJs or visit their website, thepartyauthority.us. If you've got an idea for a guest, a comment on today's show, or would like to advertise on Mr. Media Radio, email me directly at bob@mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com. You can also call our 24-hour listener line at 1-727-498-4711. Some messages may be used in an upcoming show. And unless you live next door to Mr. Media, there may be a toll charge. You can also follow Mr. Media on Facebook, Twitter, or our new YouTube and Vimeo video channels. Thanks so much for joining us today. I always appreciate you sharing a piece of your day with Mr. Media. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, this is Bob Andelman from Mr. Media. First of all, I want to thank you for years of support listening to this show. We're starting our 6th year, it's hard to believe, our 6th year as 2012 starts, and heading towards our 1,000th online podcast, audio and video. It's pretty amazing, frankly. I remember starting it several years ago thinking this will never last. And podcasts, that's as stupid a word as blogging. But here we are, starting our 6th year and heading up to 1,000 interviews. And I want to thank everybody for listening and supporting the show. I also want to tell you that one of the things that's been very helpful for this show is Stitcher Radio. Yes, this is sort of a commercial. Now, there are millions of smartphone apps in the world, but I only use one several times a day, Stitcher Radio. I build my own radio station to listen to broadcast and online shows when I want and in the order I want. CNN News Update, Onion Radio News, WTF with Mark Maron, MSNBC's Morning Joe, Studio 60, the TechCrunch headlines, and of course, Mr. Media. It's free. It works on iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, Palm Pre, and much more. And you can get it for free for yourself. Try it out. I guarantee you're going to love it. Stitcher.com/MRmedia. That's Stitcher.com/Mr. Media. You're going to love it. And thanks again for supporting the show.